Tonight, in a room full of people, you will go quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, because you have noticed something nobody else seems to. A flicker of meaning under an ordinary sentence. A small contradiction everyone agreed to ignore. And in that moment, something strange happens. You feel further away from the people around you than ever before. Why does seeing more leave you feeling so alone? For most of human history, a sharper mind was a gift. It found the safe path. It spotted the predator first. It remembered where the water was. The clearer your sight, the longer you survived. So intelligence should feel like a reward, a door opening, a wider view. But that is not what so many highly intelligent people describe. They describe a quiet kind of exile. To understand why, you have to forget the cartoon version of the genius, the one with wild hair and a chalkboard and a grin. That image sells a comfortable lie. It tells you intelligence is simply having more answers. It is not. Intelligence at its core is the ability to see more patterns, more layers, more of what is really going on underneath the surface of a thing. And here is the part nobody warns you about. You cannot turn it off. In the 1920s, a psychologist named Louis Terman set out to prove that gifted children would grow into the happiest, most successful adults alive. He gathered more than 1,000 of them. He followed them for decades. He expected to document a golden life. Many of them did well, but Terman noticed something he had not predicted. Higher intelligence did not reliably produce a happier life. Some of his brightest subjects struggled with isolation, with restlessness, with a feeling that they never quite fit the world they were measuring so clearly. That was the first crack in the myth. And the crack often opens early. Picture a child in a classroom. The teacher asks a simple question, and this child does not just know the answer. The child sees why the question was asked, where it leads, and the 3 places the lesson quietly oversimplified. So the hand goes up, and then it goes up again. And slowly, the child learns something that has nothing to do with the subject on the board. The child learns that being right too often makes the room uncomfortable, that seeing too much makes other children pull away. So the hand stops going up, the questions go inward, and a habit forms that can last a lifetime. Hide what you see. Smile. Blend in. How many brilliant adults are simply that child, grown up and still hiding? Think about what it actually means to see more. When you walk into a conversation, you do not just hear the words. You hear the thing behind the words, the small insecurity, the borrowed opinion, the fear dressed up as confidence. Other people get to enjoy the surface. You're reading 3 pages down, and it is exhausting because you can never fully join a moment you're also analyzing. This is the first cost of clear sight, distance, but it goes deeper than social awkwardness. Much deeper. A high-functioning mind is, in evolutionary terms, a threat detection machine that got too good at its job. It was built to scan, to predict, to run the situation forward and find the danger before it arrives. For your ancestors, that scanning ended when the threat ended. The lion left. The night passed. The mind could rest. Your mind does not get that signal, so it scans anyway. It turns the same horsepower that solves problems onto problems that have no solution. The argument from 4 years ago. The conversation that might go wrong next week. The vast, unanswerable questions about meaning and death and why any of this matters. A psychologist named Kazimierz Dabrowski had a word for this intensity. He called it overexcitability, not weakness, not illness. Simply a nervous system that feels and processes the world at a higher volume than most. And a higher volume is not always a blessing. In 2018, a researcher named Ruth Karpinski studied members of a high IQ society. She found that they were significantly more likely to report conditions like anxiety and chronic rumination than the general population. Now, listen carefully here, because this is where the myth tries to sneak back in. This does not mean intelligence causes suffering. The link is real, but it is gentle, and it is easy to exaggerate. What the research suggests is quieter and sadder. A mind powerful enough to see every angle is also powerful enough to torment itself with every angle. The same engine that builds the cathedral can build the prison. So picture a single ordinary evening, a dinner table, easy laughter. Someone tells a story and everyone leans in, delighted. And you laugh too. But underneath the laugh, the second conversation is already running. You can see the story is shaped, not quite true. You can see who is performing for whom. You can see the small sadness the loud person is hiding behind the joke. You are not trying to do this. You would give almost anything to just enjoy the story like everyone else. But the machine does not stop. And when the table turns to you, you give the simple, warm answer, not the true one, because you have learned the true one costs too much. That is the quiet arithmetic of a bright mind in an ordinary room. Constant translation, constant editing, constant choosing of the smaller truth to keep the peace. You are someone who sees the patterns. You notice the manipulation in the advertisement, the flaw in the plan everyone is excited about, the gap between what people say and what they do. You are usually right, and being right again and again slowly does something to you. It separates you, because most people are not looking for the truth in a moment. They are looking for connection in it. They want the easy laugh, the shared story, the comfortable agreement. And when you keep arriving with the deeper, more accurate, more complicated version, you become the person who makes things heavy. You learn to hide it. You smile and nod while a second conversation runs silently in your head. That second conversation is the loneliest room in the world. And this is the heart of it. The more clearly you see the world, the harder it becomes to find any comfort in it. Comfort for most people lives in simplicity, a belief that holds, a plan that feels certain, a story with a clean ending. But clear sight dissolves simple stories. It sees the exceptions, the contradictions, the places where the comforting answer falls apart. So the brighter the mind, the fewer easy comforts it can actually accept. You are not allowed the small illusions that keep other people warm. Is it any wonder so many brilliant people feel cold? There is a cruel twist hidden in here, and it has a shape. Call it the clarity paradox. The mind seeks understanding because it believes understanding will bring peace. If you could just figure it out, you think, you would finally rest. So you understand more, and each new layer of understanding reveals another layer of complexity beneath it. The peace keeps retreating. The clearer the picture becomes, the more you see how much there is to never fully resolve. Understanding was supposed to be the destination. It turns out to be a longer road. And there is one more layer, the cruelest of all. The same clarity that sees through other people eventually turns and looks at you. It sees your own contradictions, your own borrowed beliefs, the gap between who you pretend to be and who you suspect you are. Most people are protected from themselves by a comfortable blur. A bright mind is denied that mercy. It audits its own life with the same merciless eye it uses on everything else. And that is why so many of the most capable people you will ever meet are quietly convinced they are frauds. Not because they lack ability, because they can see, in high resolution, every flaw the ability cannot hide. What do you do with a mind that refuses to lie to you, even about yourself? And yet, this is not a story about doom, because the same trait that isolates is the trait that can connect at a depth most people never reach. Here is what the loneliest brilliant people often miss about themselves. The distance they feel is not a verdict on their worth. It is a side effect of range. A piano with more keys is harder to play in tune, but it can play music a simpler instrument never could. The intensity that makes small talk unbearable is the same intensity that makes real conversation feel like coming home. The problem was never the intelligence. The problem was trying to use a deep instrument in a shallow room. So the answer is not to dim the mind. It is to stop punishing it for being what it is. Think about how this plays out today. You live in the most information-saturated moment in human history. Every hour, your mind is handed more to see, more to analyze, more to feel responsible for. A brain built for a small tribe and a quiet horizon is now asked to hold the entire world at once. For a mind that already sees too much, this is not enlightenment. It is overload. The same loneliness Terman glimpsed a century ago has been handed a megaphone. But notice what that also means. You are not broken, and you are not alone in feeling alone. There is an entire quiet population of people sitting in crowded rooms, running a second conversation in their heads, certain they are the only one. They are not. They are simply doing what a clear mind does, seeing, and aching a little from how much there is to see. So maybe the goal was never to find comfort in understanding everything. Maybe the goal is to find the few people and the few moments where seeing deeply is not a burden you carry alone, but a thing you finally get to share. Tonight, in a room full of people, you will go quiet. But the silence does not have to be exile. It can be the moment just before you find the one person in the room who goes quiet for the same reason you do. And in that small, rare recognition, the loneliest gift you carry becomes the only thing in the room worth having. You are never too much. You are just waiting for a room deep enough to hold what you can see.